Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Tough Love Podcast. I'm here with Mike Elliott. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. Even just on our pre pre podcast call, I'm getting lit up. Um, so I'm gonna have you just introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll jump into what your work is and what it looks like for the men listening to take it up a bit to follow this path of modern day initiation.
Yeah, I'm sure most of you new to me and my work. My name's Mike Elliott. I started my practice as a relationship coach because relationship is the thing that I've needed to learn the most about in my life. I was adopted twice in the first year of my life, and that created a really strong imprint and experience of life. And it led to a lot of really painful patterns that played out in my life that led to, like a lot of you out there, I'm sure have already experienced divorce or maybe on the brinks of. That was me, brought down to my knees and had to find a different way than the way I learned how. And it brought me into this sphere of obsessing over relationship because it's what I needed for myself. And once I started to experience it from other people in a way that was missing growing up, which was lots of attunement and care and patience and compassion, once I started to receive that, all of a sudden the life that I had always wanted started to happen and come to fruition. And then I reached a place of so inspired by that, I want to give this experience to other people. I want to support other people in this place. And so, I support, men specifically in this season of my business. And my partner, Courtney, and I'm in something we call evolutionary relationship or sacred relationship, which is using the medium of the relationship for our own awakening, is the definition of that. And we serve couples. We have a podcast called The Sacred We, and we do couples work, and we have an online program. And the reason I'm orienting you to all of this is this whole sphere of relationship is my entire life's devotion because I've noticed it's the most expensive place to not master. It's if there is struggle in the relational sphere, everything sucks. Just to be frank, everything sucks. It's hard to make money. It's hard to move with clarity and towards some sort of mission. It's hard to show up as a father. It's hard to relate with thoughts and emotions. It's the most important sphere from my perspective to master because then the overflow of mastering relationships spills into all the other areas that most of us want, which is more money and experience and adventure and meaningful connections, so that when we die, we look back on our life and we really love how we lived it.
Mhm. It's beautiful. Yeah. And I find myself wanting to get a little bit more, into what maybe some stories of your journey. Like what was there, I'm sure there's several moments of of awakening of like, oh, I'm blaming her or I'm not asking for what I need. Like anything that kind of comes to mind that are some pivotal moments for you.
Yeah, like I'm sure similar to a lot of you listening, I was in a marriage and it was good. Like when we met each other, we loved each other a lot. There was big fireworks in the beginning and we were inseparable. It led to us getting married. Life was good. I thought life was good. I really was convinced everything's good. And then after some time, after some years, things weren't feeling so good. And I wasn't sure why or what to do about it. I would ask questions a lot of, "Hey, sweetie, is there something I'm not seeing that I should work on?" you're here, but we don't really feel close. And I can't figure it out. And she would be like, no, no, you're perfect. You're amazing. Don't change a thing. That was the narrative for years. We were together for 7 years. And then there was a moment where I was sitting in the living room of our house. My partner had gone away on a short trip to go see her family, and she had just gotten back. And I was sitting in the living room scrolling Netflix. That was my coping strategy at the time. I didn't even know that it was a coping strategy. I was soothing through Netflix specials. And she walks in the door and she put her bags down, and I made some passive aggressive snarky comment because I actually felt a deep struggle of her being away for so long. And I spilled that, and I made some snarky comment that a lot of men do when they're feeling distress inside. And she looked at me and she said, I'm done.
Mm.
And at first, I just experienced confusion. I didn't even really understand what that meant. So I said, what do you mean you're done? Done what? She's like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm.
I'm done. I need to leave this marriage. And then it just hit in my stomach. And I stood up, and all of a sudden, this flood of energy started rushing through my body, panic in my chest, terror. And I moved into the kitchen and I collapsed and I fell on the floor. And then I curled up into the fetal position, not choosing to do this. My body was just doing this. And I started shaking and vibrating and scream crying the words, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And then something happened. For the first time in my life, it's almost as if I was peeled out of the experience I was having, like looking out through the world, and I was looking down at myself, curled up on the floor in the fetal position, scream crying in this way. And to answer your question, that was an awakening moment for me. Something broke loose where I could see what was actually happening. I was a baby, terrified to lose his mother. And somehow in that moment, my perspective shifted, my awareness expanded. You know, when I think of awakening, it's these moments. I don't think it's an ongoing living state. I think it's a moment of clarity and truth that can't be argued. And for me, I could see, oh my God, this is day one of my life. I've recreated it. I was separated from my biological mother the day I was born, and I recreated my deepest fear, the thing that I hadn't integrated that was too overwhelming. I was so attached, grasping unconsciously. I didn't know I was doing it. I was so afraid to lose her that my part that I own is part of that pushed her away because of the way that I coped, because of my lack of relationality, my anxiousness, all these things. I was slowly
Mhm.
squeezing so tight, squeezed the life out of what was possible because I hadn't integrated my previously lived life. I had no idea.
Mm.
And then the week, the 2 weeks after that, I had a really hard time because it is now I was left with the relationship with myself that I was soothing for so many years, and I was feeling all of it. In that moment, I cut out Netflix. I stopped smoking weed, which was another way that I soothed at the time. And I let myself feel the feelings. And to be honest, I was really close to ending my life. It was so much to feel. It was so overwhelming to see the life I had created from a deep core wound. And thank God, because it brought me to my knees and it brought me to the place of desperation to actually start reaching again for help and support. I knew that I couldn't do this on my own. I had tried doing it on my own and spent 13 years reading personal development books and listening to the podcast and intellectually getting it, but I couldn't embody it. And then I prayed. Remember the moment I was in my bedroom contemplating killing myself. The thoughts were so dark. And like so many men that I support, this inner belief of I'm a monster, I'm broken, I'm fucked up. What's wrong with me? How could I have done this to her? How could I have done this to me? And then I remember an inspiring story from Oprah where she had her dark night of the soul and she dropped to her knees and just prayed and said, God, help me. For some reason, that flooded in the moment, and I just copied what seemed to work for her. It dropped down to my knees on the side of the bed, hands up in the air. I didn't have a relationship to God at that time. And I was just like, God, help me. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'll never forget that moment because I somehow had Spotify playing and the song that came on was by Shawn Mendes. It's Not in My Blood. And it spoke directly to the experience I was having. And it inspired me. And I made a decision. It's not in my blood. I am not going to do this. I'm not going to check out. This is my life. And it's my responsibility to own it and work through it. I need help to do that. And then I said, God, help me, show me the person. Where is the person that can help me make sense of this? And then I think it was the next day or within the next 2 days, somebody messaged me and said, hey, I don't know. I was thinking about you. I think you should reach out to this person. He's a soul coach. And I did. And from then on, my entire life changed because everything that I was needing to experience in a relationship to another man started to happen. And then I was invited into the work that I now do, which is taking people through the initiation of their lived experience so that that can be integrated so that just like I get to live now, people can start to live the life they were born to live.
Hmm. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm particularly moved or I guess I noticed some like almost is it fear or just a recognition that there's so many men that get to that point and get stuck, right? Don't have the the help that that you had in that moment, whether it was something you read or just grace that came to you, and just thinking about how easy it would be to have just stayed there in a sense. Easy, I mean, extraordinarily painful, but just how likely and how common that actually is
Yeah.
because of the culture we live in that doesn't actually normalize or um, name that this is a a, a necessity to initiate to seek to find the guidance that can help you through this core wounding that we all have, I would say, in some form or fashion, some wounding, some loss that hasn't been integrated.
To be human is to be wounded. Like to the second we come into a body and start to go through that dense experience of even if we think about how a conception happens, so much of humanity is not consciously conceived. The container isn't intentionally built, and mom and dad resourcing and taking care of the biology so that the strength of those sperm are moving in. Just we could go so deep on that. That part is missing and it's being remembered. And there's lots of people that are now doing that,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason I'm sharing this is if we go back far enough, even to the people, and if you're listening to this, there's so many people I sit with where they tell me, oh, yeah, good childhood. Everything was great. No complaints. Oh, yeah, tell me more about it. Not much to report. Oh, when you were distressed, who did you reach for? No one. Interesting. Because the biological mechanism is anytime we're in distress, we reach. That's the healthy right order of things.
Right.
We reach. That gets turned off if there isn't enough resource or if the bids for connection are missed too many times. And so to be a human being is accepting that we all have wounds, because being completely protected and safe and secure inside of mama's womb, leaving that space where we're now interfacing with death and meanness and war, it's pretty intense down here.
Mhm.
All we got to do is turn on the news for 5 minutes.
Right.
It's intense. That is all a
Mhm.
byproduct of the level of wounding that hasn't been integrated. So there's almost a relief of just acknowledging every one of us has wounds because we all have left our moms, and it's a lot to integrate. It takes our whole life to integrate, our whole life to make sense of it, to return home. You know, the book, The Alchemist, really highlights this journey in such a sweet way. And for anyone who hasn't read it, I won't give you the spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But the premise of like returning home, we're all here to return home. And some people don't have that experience in this one lived life. Some people do. But heaven isn't something on the other side, it's here. But it requires us, if we talk about embodiment, it requires us to integrate our already lived experience. Dan Siegel has studied this for those of you that like science. Our level of health is determined based off of our capacity to integrate our already lived experience. I'll say that again. Our level of health is determined based off of our capacity to actually integrate our already lived experience. If we don't integrate the life we've already lived, that our body is remembering, no matter how much you want to forget your past, your nervous system will not. And it stores it as freeze, numbness, collapse, all these things to protect.
Right.
And the next level of this that Dan Siegel talks about is it's actually predictable. If I sat down with you, or if I sat down with one of you listening, and I started to ask questions about your parents' experience of their childhood, I can predict how much trauma you have. Dan Siegel studied this and said, it is predictable to see how much trauma someone will have based off of their parents' ability to make sense of their own childhood.
Mm.
Parents who don't process their childhood won't actually have the resource or the presence to properly attune to their children while they're completely dependent, evolving into differentiating and moving away from the nest. They won't get enough of the attunement for what they actually need, so they won't grow up. They'll stay stunted. And so most of humanity, I'd say 80 to 90% of us, are actually adaptive children. Another way of saying that is underdeveloped brains functioning in adult bodies. So a lot of us, the way we see the world, makes sense of our relationship to our thoughts and our emotions, and how we make sense of relationship in our mission in the world. A lot of us are maybe at a grade 5 level, grade 6 level, but we're doing adulting. We're in adult bodies. We're, doing marriage. We're doing all these things, but we're actually cognitively, emotionally functioning at 10 years old, 12 years old. And we don't even know that that's happening. And there's no shame in that. But that's a conversation we need to have, because the whole point of the work that I do and that I've been initiated into, that I will be devoted to for the rest of my life, is learning what parts of me are underdeveloped and stuck and frozen in time, so I can learn how to scoop them up, attune to them, give them what they need so that they can grow up and join me in present day reality.
Mhm. And integration, right, is just a bridge also into the relational work, right? Is almost necessarily facilitated, at least in part, through relationship, right? Or it's certainly accelerated, right? Because this wounding happened in relationship, happened in the lack of attunement, or the interventions that were misattuned and that installed messages like I don't deserve to be cared for, or my feelings don't matter, my anger is too much, whatever, right? It happened in relationship. And so we have this interesting as humans, we have this really, I think it's more and more, I just see it as actually just a cool, like fascinating design that we then come into often later adulthood and start to have this opportunity to start seeking out these relationships that provide these corrective experiences. And it's exhilarating too, because there's a part of us that's like, is it going to be, can I ask for this, or can I be this way? And then we surround ourselves with people that are like, yeah, go for it. Yeah, bring it. It's healing. And I think that that's the strange kind of setup here, is that we get to be on this, we are on this journey. And that maybe it is just supposed to be this way. I don't know. But it's a long, sort of long lead up to asking you about, yeah, any more thoughts you have about, basically designing this healing experience through relationship.
One of the sentences and phrases that help me the most to always remember is it's never a me problem, it's always a we problem. We are biologically designed to be connected and bonded. And if we're not, we will be experiencing distress. We will be experiencing jealousy and insecurity and fear and worry and anger and resentment. But if we're bonded, those feelings can be there and they're not the problem. They're just being held by whatever connection is there.
Yeah.
This is the good mother energy. I'd say culturally, this is what we're evolving into, is bringing more of the good mother back online and the good father. But when we look at how much disconnection there is on the planet, that's the problem. It's not about who's doing what or not doing. It's not about that. It's easy to project that, and we see that. I do that. When I slip in unconscious, I do that. Oh, it's definitely what my partner Courtney's doing. Oh, if she didn't say that or she didn't do this.
Right.
None of that's actually the point. None of that's not what's actually going on. If there's something that I can't hold in myself, there's my body's remembering where I lost touch with connection. And then the overwhelming distress of losing connection is actually the thing that's going on. Is the fear of being rejected, is the fear of being, you know, made to be feel smaller. It's like all these things that people avoid in their work, in their relationship. It's because connection was scary when at some phase of evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Always. Bid for connection, rejected. Big feelings, criticized. Pushback, shaming. All these natural evolutionary experiences that kiddos have. And for any men listening, this is the real important piece. And this has been studied and proven. Little boys are more neurologically fragile than little girls. That's important because that means there actually needs to be even more attunement and even more reassurance for little boys than little girls because of the neurological fragility. Now, what's tricky is little boys often express a lot of power, a lot of no, a lot of throwing temper tantrums and throwing things. And that's what makes it hard to parent is there's an immense amount of primal power with an immense amount of fragility and tenderness and weakness, actually. Both need to be held really well for those two parts to become one and integrated. This is what I call in my work gentle power. I really feel every man needs to learn how to embody gentle power in their spine, but soft front, strong back, soft front, open heart, heart's leading the head. Patriarchy is the disconnection from the heart. It's the head leading, very intellectual, can see the big picture, wants to build, conquer, but there's a misattunement to the people that are a part of it. And that leads to domination, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes intentional, because it feels good to have power from an underdeveloped part. It's called grandiosity. Grandiosity feels good in the moment, but it's really relationally inappropriate and it creates disconnection. So going back to this we space, it's not a me problem. When I go back to my previous marriage, I spent 13 years in personal development, all of Tony Robbins' audio sets and going to events and courses and books. I was learning all the things. I knew it in my head, and my marriage fell apart. I was depressed. I had tons of money. I had the nice house, the beautiful wife, the theater room, the jet boat in the driveway, brand new truck, and I was miserable. Why? Because I hadn't learned how to integrate the level of distress of my childhood of two adoptions in 14 months. And I couldn't relate. I actually didn't know how to relate in a way that would nurture and tend a relational space that would tend a bond, the felt sense of a bond. I didn't know how to do it. I was so afraid of having it that I avoided the shit out of it. I just hid in the books. I hid in the
Right.
podcasts. And
Right.
maybe
But that
then
wasn't even conscious at all, right? I mean,
wasn't conscious. It was
right.
completely unconscious.
And nor I'm thinking like nor do you have like a bunch of other like reference points around you of that level of intimacy, right? That you're talking about that she was wanting, that on some very deep level you were wanting. But there's no and just like culturally it's not like you're not seeing people that are that um attuned to that we space, right? There's so much adaptation, there's so much coping that it becomes like that's the norm. That's what we do, right? That's marriage.
Yeah. The modeling isn't there.
Yeah.
It's starting to be there thanks to social media, and there's some pioneers in this space. Courtney and I are a couple doing that, making, being seen in the vulnerability, the intimacy, the realness, the things that we are having to work through to experience what we call juicy relationship, a thriving connection that is in service to something outside of that connection. That's what feels good. That's what feels fulfilling, is when the love is overflowing and spilling into the service of others, of, hey, this is what we can do together. But that's not what most of us have been modeled. Most of us grew up in households with very codependent parents or separated parents and got this blueprint that is driving how we as adults see life. And that is, well, you just commit long term, you accept what's here. And when feelings come up, you bury them, you go watch TV, you just coexist and just don't bring up anything too uncomfortable. It'll make things tumultuous. Dad'll get angry. And then when dad's angry, everyone's afraid. That's not good. So let's just appease dad. And this may not fit to your setting if you're listening to this, but this is a common one I sit with or experience when I'm working with clients is dad was scary. Mom was kind of checked out or over attached to the kid and getting her emotional needs met and resourcing off of the child. And so it actually prevents the child from being able to grow up because they're parenting their mother unconsciously. And there's just all these dynamics that can play out that feed disconnection, that give the message inside. Intimacy's scary. Like in the community that I live in here, I live on the side of a mountain. We were just talking about this last night. It was in a full moon circle with brothers, and we were just talking about the privilege we have of living here. Because when we see each other, we hug each other for extended periods of time. We let our bodies feel that. We express our love for each other. We talk into the depths of our human experience and our relationship, and we work through life together. I believe every man needs that. I believe it's a biological experience that's necessary for us to be a fully well human being. But I sometimes I forget outside of this place That's not what's normal. Most of my clients, when I sit down with them, the first month or sometimes two is them pushing against me with the level of intimacy that they're just experiencing from my presence. And that's a part that needs to happen of like, well, this and why should I trust you? And well, challenging all these ways. And then so much of our culture needs that from us. Like you, Ryan, I know you do men's work. And for us, it's like our job to hold with the resource that we get from being a part of men's work, the presence for the push.
Mhm.
That needs to be there. That's the part that got shamed and criticized and rejected. And so now it's our job to welcome the push. Great. Yeah. Yeah, something about this doesn't feel good. Great. Feel it. I can hold it, bring it. Because once that push and the push keeps happening, but the connection doesn't go away,
Mhm.
that's where the defense strategies start to drop. And that's where somebody starts to go into the aha light bulb moment of, I actually want your connection.
Mhm.
Dude, can you hold me?
Yeah, I can. No, I can't. Really? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because it's just, there isn't, you're describing like this, it's really just such a beautiful, like existential shift, right? Right. Just like the whole concept of who they are, right? It begins to shift from being somebody that just has to hold themselves,
Yeah.
protect, just handle, just endure, being
Yeah.
somebody that can be soft, that can lean in and be met.
Yeah. Which is this is what's so beautiful. And if you're a man listening to this, I know you're this man. I know you're someone that cares so much. You're listening to the podcast, you're gathering the information. It is making sense to you in your head.
Mhm.
But then the conundrum is you go to try to meet your partner. She shares one wave of emotion or disappointment or frustration or criticism, and you lose it.
Mhm.
You shut down, you get defensive,
Mhm.
you project and you make it about her,
Mhm.
get reactive, and then you feel shame about that and you withdraw. And you got to go, oh, I got to do something to try to fix this. And come on, why can't I do this? And
Mhm.
intellectually beat the shit out of yourself
Mhm.
to try to go do the thing you never got from someone else.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that I'd say will save any of you the most amount of time. It's not a you problem, it's a connection problem. It's
Mhm.
time to find, and this is the tangible, it's time to find a men's group. It's time to find a mentor, somebody who is embodying relationship in a way that you desire, because how we initiate into the version of person we want to become is proximity to the person that is mirroring the possibility of it. Tony Robbins talks about this. Proximity is power. That is a deep, sacred truth. If I want to have a deep, thriving relationship, guess who I need to have supporting me? Somebody that has spent years and years learning, moving through all the crunchy bits, learning how to go through rupture and then repair, rupture, repair, rupture, repair, rupture, repair, hundreds of times for them to be in the juicy part of, I love this relationship. This is my person I am committed to for the rest of my life. This is so good. And then being supported by the person that knows the felt sense, because this is one of the biggest problems that I see in the coaching world, the therapy world. And I love that that world exists. I'm a part of it. But a blind spot is there's a lot of people who aren't living sacred relationship or an evolved relationship, supporting people who are wanting relationship and projecting unconsciously this narrative and this frequency of, yeah, screw them,
Mhm.
boundaries. You know what?
Mhm.
Maybe you're better without them.
Mhm.
And there's this information that gets transferred to this person that actually makes their problem worse by emphasizing the individualism.
Yeah.
We actually need an advocacy. And Courtney and I do this in our couples work, and this is what I do with my individuals. I'm never just working with the person. I'm always attuning to what we call the soul of the relationship. That's the third entity that gets created when two people come together. It doesn't matter whether it's a friendship, that doesn't, any person we come across in the world has information in their field. And this may sound woo woo, but they have an imprinting, an energy that invokes and triggers the energy in the imprinting we have inside of ourselves. And so that creates a third entity. There's something that gets created when we come together that is inviting an evolution. It's inviting an awakening, a seeing deeper patterns and perspectives. If we don't have somebody supporting us that understands that the soul of the relationship is the thing to advocate for, to attune to bring down into the relationship, what will happen is what's already happening. If you're there, the same pattern will play out again and again, and the stories will stack that it's definitely my partner's the problem. It's her, it's just unpredictable waves of emotion. It's her this, it's her that, it's my boss, it's everyone else. But that's not what's actually happening. There's a missing link of guidance in how to relate and be in what we call each other's care. A
Mhm.
thriving relationship doesn't come from just learning boundaries and how to communicate better. It comes from changing a belief inside, and that is adopting and believing that it is in any partnership, it is our job to be in each other's care, which means getting to know the imprinting that if we were to deepen our relationship, Ryan, I would want to start to get to know the household you grew up in, the relationship your parents had. Because the more I know the imprinting and the stories that were true, it'll help me make sense of what I'm feeling when we're relating. And and if you do that for me, we get to be allies to rewrite the story of the little kid inside,
Mhm.
not to be the mother or the father, but to offer over mothering and fathering qualities so that we can feel what that feels like and let that into those little kids inside that are there, whether we like it or not. And then for them to have a present day new experience, that's the ultimate liberation. That's attunement. When we have relational attunement, which means seeing all the history we're carrying with us in a present moment. Oh, oh, if I'm relating with my partner, all of a sudden, something happens and then she kind of looks a little uneasy and she gets a bit squirmy. If we're actually oriented from the place of the sacred we, of being in each other's care, I'm going to check in knowing her. I wonder what happened here that's triggered something that I obviously see is happening for her
Mhm.
that seems out of proportion to what's actually happening right now. And then where my awareness goes is, oh, right, scary father.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm kind of in get shit done mode right now. I just came in from work. I haven't really attuned and slowed down to the pace of what Courtney and my son are in right now. And I can see the way I just said that thing. Her body's now just going into implicit memory and remembering dad's scary. She
Mhm.
needs to self protect and pull away. In this practice of being in each other's care, I now get to move towards her. I get to slow down my pace. And for all you men, I write this on your fridge. If you want to emotionally meet and satisfy your partner in a better way, whatever pace that you're moving towards her at, slow it down 3 times. Just that one thing changes everything because they're feeling oriented.
Totally.
And so then I can move towards Courtney, approach with a shoulder turned, just on slightly on an angle because the brain will gather information and it's been proven that that's perceived as less threatening. If I come straight on, broad shoulders, it's too much. But if I just come in and I turn a shoulder and I kind of look away, but just glance over, just inviting eye contact, I can go and slowly approach, put my hand on her back, breathe, and hey, sweetie, I'm really sorry for the tone that I used there. My imagining is it brought up a lot. maybe me representing dad. And what often happens is she takes a big out breath and she goes, "Oh, yeah, thanks for naming it. I'm here. I got you. I love you. I see you. Hey, can we make eye contact? Hey, God, I love you." And then that's the rewrite. It
Mhm.
takes a minute and it gives the new information for her to then touch. Oh, I got seen in a place I wasn't seen. I got offered the thing I needed to feel. Gets to integrate. And then there's a deeper connection on both sides. Because then I get to feel so good as a man that I got to provide that, that I caught it, and that I could, mobilize in this way where it was like, whoo, instead of me now taking it personal, like, what's your problem?
Mhm.
And then me getting reactive because she's looking uneasy and I'm personalizing it, which God, I still do. In an under resourced moment, I see her distress and I'm like, and I want to push it away because it's actually stirring up the distress in me and it's too much. I can't hold both because I'm in a distress. And so I'll make it about needing to get rid of her. But the ultimate is where we both start to slow down the material to help it integrate in the present moment.
Mhm.
That's the awakening. That is the relational liberation that
Mhm.
I want us all to experience.
Mhm. Yeah, it's quite a journey. I mean, to get to what you're describing, and I'm just really taking in how complex of a task that is. I coach my couples in this all the time, and it's really hard to really get them to get right this slowing down because you're dealing with a sea change, right? A whole different orientation, moving from a one person psychological system to a two person, which is just not something that's talked about enough, or right,
Yes.
hardly at all. But yet it is like what I hear. One of your biggest messages is that is essential to our well-being. And I totally agree, and that's totally my work in this world as well. But yet it is such a you can lay it out like you just did, and the process of being able to be with your own parts, you could say, right, in a moment like that, where your wife is um, upset, irritated, maybe showing some threat response from how you are, to be able to kind of catch and notice and soothe your own parts, like you've done nothing wrong, you're just doing your thing,
Yeah.
you know enough so that they can calm down, so that then you can actually see her as she is and engage that prefrontal cortex that can be like, I wonder what's going on for her.
Yeah.
Oh, right. She's having a reaction because I'm coming in strong, and she has that child, and of course she's feeling that way. Let me practice slowing down and slowing my approach, and and communicating, expressing explicit friendliness and care. Wow, what a complex task that actually is to arrive at.
It's more complex in the mind than what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the biggest things that I experience, and it's taken me a long time to really understand. We need to leverage the intellect because we need to make sense of what we're saying yes to and what we're going to practice. But it's in the practice itself that creates the new experience that blows the mind apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I mean by this is, in the beginning, when Courtney and I started supporting couples, it was crunchy. It was felt a bit challenging. It took a long time to make big shifts because it's not really about what's going on in the mind. A lot of couples who show up to get help and support actually know on some level that it would be better for them to be more connected. but we can't talk the nervous system out of what they're actually feeling in the day-to-day moment, in the place where the support isn't there. And so this is why Courtney and I created, we have this online signature program, which is called Evolutionary Relationship, the Initiation. And we meet biweekly. And what we do is we practice. We guide the ingredients that are necessary for a couple to feel in their bodies to even be open and available for relationality. And then once they feel that, then we go into the relational practices in the partnership, in the moment. Not just talking about it, enough talking in education to get enough of what we're about to do, but that's just to soften the intellect to go into the physical somatic experience of relating in the way that will create new networks in the brain.
Mhm.
Prime example of this, we've had couples in there that, one couple is coming to mind where they were in this pattern where they would just ping off each other. Pinging, for those of you that don't know that term, pinging is where our imprinting matches perfectly and is being projected onto each other and smashes against. And it's just this perfect constellation of confusion and complexity where you're not going to get through it, just the two of you, because what your brain is perceiving in your partner and what they're perceiving in their brain about you so matches your history that it's too hard to even get enough grasp on what's present day reality. And so you just beat the heck out of each other or avoid each other, whatever it looks like. But we had this one couple for 20 years, this pattern played out. And then we brought them into a practice and we could see in their body language the pattern playing out. And so the practice, beautifully designed, brought them through that out of their head to just feel a different experience. And then they messaged or they communicated at the end of it, "Oh my God, our 20-year pattern just got blown apart." And they were cuddling and her head was on his chest and he was rubbing her hair and they were in tears because they finally felt what was always needed. That wasn't about the intellect of what they knew about what was happening. They just needed to feel the connection. When a couple can feel the connection in a safe way, all the stories and the stacked, what you call this is sticky notes, in relationship. So often we get so good at writing these judgments and these criticisms about our partner, and we write them on a sticky note and we stick it on side, like onto them. But then there's so many sticky notes, we can't actually see the person behind all the sticky notes. We got to drop all the sticky notes to even get curious about who we're relating with or what they need and what we want from them. And so often it's just being in the practice of relationship, which often is hard to do on your own. So this is why I'm sure the couples come to you, Ryan, to be held and supported and guided into a new experience because they're trying, but it's not working. But if
Mhm.
somebody can come in and guide a new experience and do the thing that they're needing to do, but they don't have it, that's slowing down the material to nurture, what we could, this is our golden rule that we live by. It's connection before communication.
Mhm.
We don't even want to communicate until we feel connected because if we connect with disconnection online, we just feed the pattern, we recapitulate the wound, and it just brings us farther apart. But if we prioritize connection first, our physiology settles and we're actually intentionally drawing on more of the prefrontal cortex and we can use what that's the adult brain. We can use this wide adult brain to be open to the curiosity of doing something new and different that maybe will bring connection. And then often it's a big surprise. Oh, whoa, God, I love you. That feels so good. And then it's in that new experience that now will be the data we want to pay attention to.
Mhm.
And couples work is always to notice where is something new happening?
Mhm.
Where is your partner showing up? Can you feel and notice how much of them is showing up? Can you see the 10% of them is there? I hear your story that they're not there. My partner's not showing up. It's always so funny with a couple sitting in front of us. He's not showing up.
Right.
Well,
Like,
okay, let's check that out. He's sitting there. He's looking at you. He showed up for couple support. So can we notice the holes in that story that's not serving the connection? Building stories of where we aren't showing up for each other doesn't help anything. And I wish you were all there so I could see show of hands. How helpful is it when your partner tells you all the ways you're not providing and not showing up? Is that really inspiring to want to provide more? No, because it's not relational. But if we can be guided into borrowing someone else's wise adult brain, which is us as the facilitator, I'm seeing at least 20% of them here. And then it challenges that story, and then the partner often can't argue it. Oh, shit.
mm,
You're right. Oh, wow. Interesting. I'm even noticing tears in their eyes when you just told that story of where dad hurt you. Seems like they're really connected to you right now. Then they see that. And then they start to notice, oh, they weren't even looking for it. They're so lost in the remembering of the story that their body's trying to protect them from that they lost touch with there is actually connection here.
mhm,
And then being guided into it, there's a relief and a remembering, oh, I'm contributing to this. And often it leads to the most beautiful thing. And there's the acknowledgement on the other side.
mm,
God, I'm so sorry, sweetie, that I haven't been receiving what you're offering.
mm,
And then we're now moving into the new terrain. Now we're moving into we consciousness. And I think it's important to leverage our logic, leverage our mind. And that is understanding there is three phases of consciousness that have to happen. We can't skip, we can't bypass any of them. And the first one is me consciousness. Second is you me consciousness. And the third is we consciousness. We graduate into we consciousness by mastering the first two. Can't skip them. Me consciousness, if we look at in healthy development, is it's an infant, 100% dependent. They don't really care about what you are feeling or not feeling as a mom and a dad. They are going to scream, cry, do whatever they want to get their need met. We need to have that. It needs to be met well. If we have it, then we evolve into you me consciousness. Oh, wait, what? We're different? Mom isn't me. Dad isn't me. Well, I want this and they want that. And it's this whole push pull to getting each other's needs met and figuring out how to be different and both of us getting enough of our needs met to be in the same space. Oh, you, me, okay, there's you, the boundaries, okay, everything's clear. And then we evolve into, wait a minute, let's blow these barriers apart and live in we consciousness. And that is understanding. It's in my enlightened self-interest to be in the forever care of anyone in my field. All my relationships, anyone I'm in who's in my home, it's in service to my experience of life if I am tending and aware of everyone who's here
mhm,
and what helps them have an enjoyable experience. That increases my experience. That's we consciousness. That's understanding the bigger truth. And this one's hard to argue. We are all on this rock hurling through outer space. One rock, we're all sharing it. We're all a family here. Same team, guys. So, whoa, why aren't we treating it like the home we're craving for? Why aren't we being more compassionate and present and caring for the difference, for the all the sharing and why is there so much competition down here? Well, because we've got disconnected from the bigger truth. All the same family. These are all brothers and sisters. And this might be a little philosophical or spiritual for a lot of you, but it's hard to argue that that's true. We have no evidence that there's any other rock out there with human life on it. That's pretty immense to think about. We all happen to be here in a body having an experience of life. Why the hell would we not want to learn how to share this place in a good way? How much better would it feel for you if you mastered being relational with everyone you were sharing this place with, no matter how much you want or don't want that to be happening? It's what's happening.
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel inclined to like go full circle and think about the why, and I think about the baby, right? I think that that comes out into this onto this rock, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like what it's just from the get-go, right? It's like I'm not even fully formed. I'm like I want to, yeah, I don't want to be here. This is hard. And so we, yeah, though we end up right on this journey to, because we actually don't have a choice in terms of our own, like our well-being, to be truly well and truly alive, we have to learn how to be in that we. Like
Yeah.
there is like it or not, there is a if we listen to our bodies, our nervous systems, and our in our relationships, there is a pull to
Yeah.
join it. There's a pressure, even you could say, because when we're not, when we're resisting it, it's painful and we're
So,
alone,
yeah.
right? But we as facilitator, I mean, I just it's clear now more than ever. It's our job to creatively and patiently and compassionately facilitate that transition, right? That initiation into that we space, right? That um, I can be dependent. I can be in this erratically interdependent and intimate space with you.
Mhm.
And it's actually okay. And actually, if it's starting to fill up these empty places or these tight places are relaxing and but what a journey that we are on in that way.
Such a journey. Such a journey because there's so much evidence that could be gathered as data is what's the point?
Hmm.
There's been so much hurt. There's so much judgment. When I scroll on social media, well intended, there's lots of messages out there that are making fun of a certain group to highlight how their group is more important or more valuable. It's so painful that we are just, that's where we're at. No one's bad or wrong. This is where we're at as a collective consciousness growing up together. We're all growing up together. And I really hope that if it's not in our timeline, it's for our kiddos, that there's a place that eventually happens where there's more care in the difference and there's more space and patience and gentleness around the difference, not caretaking or being just too soft, but bringing the gentle power of everyone being in their own lane in a way that doesn't have to make any other lane bad or wrong. Like putting others down to feel big is not the way. We know that. Every one of us knows that in our body on some level. You look at the extremes of it, of Auschwitz, and what happened. It's just an entire demographic being murdered and just eliminated, annihilated. We know that's not right, but we subtly do it. I do. I'll own my part. I subtly do it. When I'm unconscious, I'm doing it. Passive aggressive comments, criticism, trying to put power over my son. And then I catch it. Whoa, what's coming up for me? Wow. Okay. I'm being invited to build in more capacity here. We're all being invited to develop more capacity. And one place, just to emphasize where we do this well often in this hyper individualist culture, we know where this way works. We know so many men that I sit with are really good at some sort of sport or have built business. The same sequence of ingredients that's required relationally has happened. There is tone there because in order to be good at a sport, in order to build a big business, that person has to go through a lot of really uncomfortable experiences. I like to call it initiations. Every phase of the development for that skill that's so enjoyable to have requires surrendering to discomfort,
Mhm.
coaching self to move through it, or being coached to move through it, and doing the reps, doing the reps, doing the reps until on the other side, wait a minute. Oh, I did it. And then the triumph, especially for masculine energy. Masculine essence is all about becoming. What feels good for men is the feeling of death. This comes from David Data's work. And death, I don't mean just physical death. It's the release of tension, the elimination of tension is what all men look for. That's why men are addicted to porn. That's why men love watching sports, because there's a situation of tension, and then there's a release of the tension, and it feels so good to feel the release of the tension.
Mhm.
And so men are seeking that. But if we know that's a part of us, we can apply those same things that brings in the amazing skill in sport, the amazing thing that built the business. And what I love working with is the men that have done that. They've built the empire in the business, but their wife is terrified of them or completely checked out, and or they're terrified of them, because those same ingredients that created all those results, all we're being invited to do is shift them into the relational sphere and understand what we will get out of staying through all those uncomfortable, crunchy moments. Learning how to respect the energy that's there that you can't fight. If you think of, I'll use skiing or snowboarding as an example. I don't get the juiciness or the satisfaction of launching off a jump into powder and cruising and doing a 360 and being out in nature without having falls, like catching an edge and like smashing my face, or hurting my shoulder, and then what do? I want that feeling of um, mastery on the mountain and gliding with nature, because that feels so good. It feels free. There's the death in that, is I've overcome all of my own weaknesses to develop strength. That's what feels good. And now, if we now shift this over and see, it's going to feel, for all of you men out there, I promise you, you will feel like the most alpha man you've ever experienced when you know how to surf the feminine, surf relationship, understand that in every place of tension, it's an invitation to lean in, not pull away. Your salvation isn't go isolate more and more space. That's the thing that feeds the problem. Just like the sport, just like the business, that's the moment to actually lean in, build the capacity to stay and not go and defend and deflect. Oh, hang out there. Oh, learn the new tool, use the new practice, all the things that create relationality. And then the liberation is in that. And then how good it feels. There's so many moments I mess it up and I miss it. But when I follow my own teachings and I move in this way, it's so fulfilling as a man to be able to guide energy that is chaotic and out of control into a place of safety.
Mhm.
It is the most satisfying thing on the planet. I don't care how much money's in my bank account when I'm able to do something like that because I'm on top of the world, to be the man I want to be, which a lot of you men I know want to be.
Mhm.
It's not in the lack of wanting it or caring about your partner. You just haven't had the initiation to bring you into the ability to offer what they're actually asking for.
Right. There hasn't been right, the modeling, and they don't even know what mastery looks like, right? And like in snowboarding, like say you're, choose your follow up on your example. There's some modeling. There's like, okay, that's like that's what I'm moving towards. But you throw these men into marriages and they're just all they have as models is practically what they see on TV or, their fathers and it's not it's unfair, right? And so
Yeah.
I just I realize we gotta kind of wind it up here, and I just want to appreciate you for many things, but I'll pick one. Just really taking up the mantle, like stepping into such beautiful leadership around this, so that men have that model and can move towards something that is achievable and is ultimately such a source of empowerment and fulfillment.
Yeah. Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
thanks for being a brother and ally doing that work so we can be that together. For me, these conversations, the uh, sharing the resonance of where this is the work going out into the world, it feels so good for me because it would suck doing it alone. And so to do it with a brother that gets it, that is in the practice of it, this is what starts to create new information to culture. It's hard to shift culture, but if there's enough men doing what we're devoted to doing, which is naming I'm imperfect in it. If you were to follow me in my day-to-day life, I mess it up all the time, but I go back to the practice and I keep refining more capacity so that we can show men there is another way. And this is what you get from doing the other way. Take it from a guy that used to be a plumber gas fitter, just doing grunt work on the ground that was miserable, to getting to live the life of my dreams in partnership that people didn't even know was possible. That's from saying yes to the sacred we. It's from saying yes to the initiation as a man and learning how to be held so that I could grow up and claim the life that I knew I wanted, as I'm sure you have.
Mm. It's possible. It's an option, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where can men find you? They
Yeah, I'll
say,
share my links. You can put it down in the description, but the easiest way to find me is you can just type in it's Mike Elliott, and Elliott is ELLIOTT, two T's.com. If something in this really pulled on you and you had an insight or an aha, like, oh my God, like, yes, I need more support here. You can, check that page out and send me a message. And then Instagram is a great way to just get free content, and it's Mike Elliott relating. And then you can also follow Courtney and I's podcast. Any of you that are in a relationship and just want free resources and tools, it's called The Sacred We. And I'll share the link with you so people can click on that. And it's the best way to get a hold of me.
awesome, Mike.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you,
it.
Ryan.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank
Take
you.
care.